really tall guy on it.
All right, so the endocrine system. It's an important body system, and it is. Oh, we're gotta go back here.
Can you shut the door?
So the endocrine system consists of our glands, or what we call endocrine glands. There's several of them, and they produce these hormones. These hormones circulate through our blood, and they affect our body in different ways. So the endocrine system is a system of ductless glands that produces hormones. And really, a hormone is just a small little chemical, a little protein that is produced in a gland. It affects some part of our body in some way. The term endocrine comes from two parts, endo and crine. What does endo mean?
Two.
Not quite. Wait, what? It's the opposite of another prefix we learned.
Oh,
Insects have what kind of skeleton? Exoskeleton. So what does endo mean, Isaiah? Yeah, it means inside. Endo means inside. And crine means to produce or secrete something. So these are secretions that are produced inside of our body. The word hormone, so our endocrine system produces hormones. And the word hormone, it means to excite. And you could think of it as the endocrine system is glands producing these hormones that can excite or start something happening in our body. No, write that sentence. So these chemical messengers, they cause something to happen in our body. So if your adrenal glands produce adrenaline, that causes a change in your body. It causes your heart rate to increase. Another. Insulin's produced in your body, causes some changes. Growth hormone causes something to happen in your bones. So these hormones, they cause various changes in different parts of our body. And they're controlled by something that we call a feedback system. So a feedback system is a way for our body to sort of monitor conditions and then make any adjustments in order to keep our body working properly. And it works because these feedback systems can turn these glands on or off, depending on what is needed. And the best way to understand this is through thinking about like this thermostat in our room. So this is a thermostat. What is it? Raise your hand and tell me, what is it responsible for doing? Have you?
It raises the heat in the room.
Yeah. Does it only raise it?
And it lowers it.
So yeah, this thermostat is monitoring the temperature of this room all the time. Okay. So let's say this thermostat is set at 76 degrees. Okay. Well, what happens, so somebody open the window. What happens if the temperature then of this room drops down to 70 degrees? This thermostat is keeping track. It's okay, it's 70 degrees. And what will it do?
Go up.
Well, sort of.
Maintain
The temperature is set at 76.
Oh, good.
The thermostat realizes it's only 70 here.
So it's going to bring it up 6 degrees.
Yeah, how? Does heat come out of this thing?
No,
No. No, heat comes out of here.
more if it comes out.
Yeah. So kind of what happens? Yeah. This actually controls the heater in the back of the room. There's a wire that goes in the wall and across the ceiling and into that heater. And so when this thermostat senses that the temperatures drop down, it sends a signal to the heater and tells it to do what?
So change.
Yeah. And turn on. And that heater will turn on. And it'll start releasing heat in this room. And then what's going to happen to the temperature?
It's gonna go eat.
It's going to come back up.
Yeah.
What happens once it gets back to 76?
It's gonna stay.
Yeah, it's going to set, it says, okay, now we're right at the right level. It sends another message to the heater telling it to turn off. And then if the temperature drops again, repeat. So this is constantly keeping track of the temperature and sending a signal to another piece of equipment telling it what to do, turn on or turn off. That's a feedback system because this is monitoring conditions and then constantly making adjustments. That's just like an endocrine gland. It keeps track of conditions, sends messages to other organs telling them how to adjust, and therefore it can help maintain what we call homeostasis, balance, proper conditions. That's what homeostasis is. And that's what the job of our endocrine system is, to balance and keep conditions at the right level in our body by releasing these hormones. You know, if we summarize what happens is our endocrine system makes hormones, which are these chemicals. They're made in glands, several different glands in our body, and they're sent directly into our blood. So these hormones, they get throughout our body in our bloodstream. Basically, every cell in our whole body is surrounded by blood. And so these messages can get anywhere. These hormones tell different parts of our body how to work, and that helps to regulate our body. We're going to talk about some specific hormones and endocrine glands. And the first one we'll talk about is a really important one. It's called the pituitary gland. It's sometimes referred to as a master gland. Because not only does it make some hormones on its own, but also it controls other endocrine glands in our body. It's kind of like in charge of our overall endocrine system. It's this tiny little thing. It's very important, but it's just this tiny little thing about the size of a pea, and it's deep within our brain. At the base of our brain, kind of hanging down here at the bottom is this little thing. That's the pituitary gland. So it makes lots of different hormones to help control the other glands. But another one that it produces that's important, it's especially important for you guys right now, is a hormone called HGH. Does anybody know what that stands for? Isaiah? Human growth hormone. How did you know that? You just know it? So HGH, human growth hormone, is produced in our pituitary gland, and it has a very important role. For you guys right now, probably your pituitary gland is producing a lot of HGH because you're at an age in which you're growing. And that's what human growth hormone does. It controls the growth of our bones. When your pituitary gland produces HGH, it goes into your blood, circulates all throughout your body, and some of it ends up at your bones. The bones in your legs and your arms and so forth. And what it tells those bones to do is basically grow, get longer, produce new cells so that you can grow taller. The reason you get taller as you go through childhood and adolescence and your teenage years is because the amount of HGH increases, causing your bones to grow. It also is responsible for muscle repair and so forth. In sports, HGH is a banned substance. You can't use HGH. Who just got in trouble for HGH?
Peyton.
Was Peyton Manning
Well, he was
accused of it?
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes athletes get in trouble for using HGH. Do you know about that situation? Was he recovering from an injury? Often athletes may use it. Like who? One of the pitchers for the Yankees, was it?
Oh, it was
That was a while back. Was it Andy Pettit? Got in trouble for using HGH when he was recovering from an injury, because giving yourself synthetic HGH can help recover from that injury quicker, but it's banned. It's illegal to do. Now, if you have a normal amount of HGH, then you grow to whatever height your genes say you're going to grow to, and that's it. But there are people that, for some reason, their pituitary gland is not working properly, and they may not produce HGH. And that leads to what we call dwarfism. Okay? Dwarfism is when this HGH signal is not present. And so a person's bones don't grow normally, and they don't grow to a normal height. They grow to some abnormally short height because their bones never got the signal from their pituitary gland. Okay, so that leads to what we call dwarfism. The opposite also happens. Sometimes a person's pituitary gland is overactive and it produces too much human growth hormone, and that can lead to what we call gigantism. We'll watch a video in a little bit about Robert Wadlow. He was the tallest man ever to have been documented. He grew to a height of 8 feet and 11 inches tall. So that's the tallest ever.
Isn't that pretty much 9 feet?
Close, just a little under 9 feet. You know who this guy is?
Yeah.
Who? Maybe Princess Bride.
Yeah.
Isn't that guy, what's it called?
He was a famous wrestler around my time when I was a kid. I saw him wrestle at the Odd in the WWF. That's Andre the Giant. You ever hear of him?
Oh, yeah.
Andre the Giant. He was 7'4". He also had a pituitary gland abnormality, and that's why he grew to such a large height.
I know people that just have 4.
Looks really scary.
This is a picture showing the current
Yeah, him.
tallest man alive, and he's 8'3". And then the shortest man alive, who's just under 2 feet tall.
He's living?
Yeah, they are both currently living. And so, what's that? No, this Robert Wadlow is dead. This guy's 8'3". This guy's less than 2 feet tall. Just these still alive. This is again a picture of Robert Wadlow, the same guy here. This is him and his father. So obviously, Robert Wadlow had a tumor on his pituitary gland, and that caused it to produce excess human growth hormone. Throughout his life, he never stopped growing. He lived into his early 20s, and even late in his life, when he was in his early 20s, he was still growing taller and taller. Eventually, he died because he got an infection in his foot because he had to wear braces. He was so tall, he had to wear special braces to allow him to stand up because his bones weren't strong enough to support his whole height. And eventually, he got an infection. That's what he died from.
Wait,
He didn't die from the tumor?
No, the tumor, they couldn't operate because the tumor's so deep in their brain, especially then, they couldn't operate on it. So no, he didn't die from the tumor, he died from an infection. This is a model of him that's at the Guinness Record Museum, and some weird guy standing in front of it. So you can compare this normal sized person to how tall Robert Wadlow was. We'll watch the video about Robert Wadlow in just a couple minutes. But before we get there, I want to talk about one other gland, the pancreas. Pancreas is very important. It's in your abdomen. It's kind of tucked behind your stomach. It does a few different things. It creates digestive enzymes, but that's not what we're concerned about for this unit. It's also an endocrine organ. And the pancreas produces a hormone that's called insulin. And insulin is a really important hormone in our body. What does it control? What does insulin control for us? Our blood sugar. So in your blood that's circulating around your body right now, you have some sugar in your blood. It's supposed to be there. It's good. You need a certain amount of sugar so you can stay alive. But too much sugar in your blood can be dangerous. It can damage your kidneys, it can damage your eyes, damage your nerves. Too little sugar in your blood, and you can get lightheaded, you could pass out. That's also not good. So we need sort of the right level. And it's our pancreas that helps to keep track of that and helps to adjust that. Our pancreas is an endocrine organ, and it produces this hormone insulin. And insulin's job is to lower our blood sugar. So let's think about an example here. So let's say you were in lunch 2 periods ago. Let's say you ate, 5 Oreos and an ice cream sandwich along with your lunch. And so right now, as you're digesting that in your stomach and your small intestine, a lot of that's being broken down into sugar, into glucose, that's going into your blood. So probably right now, even if you didn't eat lots of sugary sweet things, even if you had a piece of fruit, even if you ate some bread in your lunch, that breaks down into glucose in your digestive system. So right now in your blood, your glucose level after lunch, it started going up. And your pancreas works just like this thermostat, it's keeping track. And your pancreas says, okay, our blood sugar level is going up. And it says, we need to adjust this. It's getting too high. And so your pancreas turns on and starts to produce what?
Glucose, sugar.
Insulin.
Yeah, it produces insulin. Produces hormone from your pancreas and it's flowing through your blood right now. And what insulin does is it sends a message to all the cells in your liver and other body cells that, hey, there's too much glucose in our blood. We need to get rid of some of this glucose. Why don't you take some in? And so your liver absorbs some glucose from your blood. Your body cells take in glucose. And so what happens to the amount of glucose in your blood? So you ate your lunch, it went up, you released insulin, now it's coming back down.
You didn't eat breakfast or lunch.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Once it comes down and it gets to the right level, what do you think your pancreas does then?
It stops.
Yeah, it says, okay, good, that's it, that's where we want it, and your pancreas turns off. So now for the next couple hours, after your blood sugar level comes back down, it'll probably stay off until you go home after school. And you eat a big bowl of Fruity Pebbles.
I've never had Fruity Pebbles.
And then that whole process repeats again. Your blood sugar starts to rise. Your pancreas monitors that. It realizes it. Makes insulin. Your blood sugar level comes back down, and this repeats over and over and over again. And that helps to keep our blood sugar at the right level. Because again, too much, too little is not good for us. Now, that's me ask the question, well, what if you didn't eat breakfast or lunch? Well, then probably what is your blood sugar like? It's probably low. Maybe you feel weak. You might get lightheaded. You could even pass out. But we have a separate set of hormones that basically work exactly the opposite of insulin. It's called glucagon. You don't have to know about it, but I'll tell you about it. And it's also released in the pancreas. And it does the exact opposite. So when your pancreas realizes your blood sugar level is too low, it produces glucagon. Glucagon goes to the cells in your liver and says, hey, blood sugar too low, we need some back in your blood, and your liver will release it. And then your blood sugar level will come back up. Okay? And then your pancreas will shut off that glucagon, and you're back to the right level. So both these hormones from your pancreas are monitoring your blood sugar and making sure it stays around. Sometimes it goes up, but then it brings it right back down. If it dips down, then your pancreas brings it right back up again. So it's always trying to maintain what we call homeostasis, maintain balance. Is that?
Can I have tea? Because this shed really cuts my hand.
Go ahead.
So like, if a person has like high blood sugar, does that mean like that their pancreas doesn't work as well?
Sometimes. So let's talk about that. So there are times when a person's pancreas doesn't work properly. What do we call that disease? Diabetes. Diabetes is a disease in which, for some reason, a person's pancreas is not producing insulin. And so if your pancreas isn't producing insulin, what that means is if you eat your ice cream sandwich at lunch, your blood sugar goes up, but now your pancreas isn't producing that insulin, it stays at that elevated level. And like I said, that's bad for your kidneys, it's bad for your eyes, okay? It's bad for your whole body. And so it stays at that elevated level. Okay? So a person that does have diabetes, how do they manage it? You probably know somebody with diabetes. And what are some things they have to do? Tyler?
Like sometimes they need to eat sugar,
Okay,
like a lollipop or something.
okay. Well, let's come back to that in 1 second. Abiel?
They go with like for nurse.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. Ken?
DT.
Yeah? How do they know what they need to do, though? Yeah, they check their blood sugar. So you may have seen a little meter. You have a little thing. You prick your finger. You get a little drop of blood. You put it on a strip, and a little machine will tell you what your blood sugar level is. Because your pancreas isn't controlling it, so you have to monitor it yourself. If you see your blood sugar is too low, maybe you have some juice. Maybe you have some candy or something. Often people that are diabetic might carry with them some sort of food like a lollipop or some candy or something, juice, in case their blood sugar goes too low. If you test your blood sugar and you find it's too high, you may go to the nurse, or you may just do it on your own. And what do you have to do?
Take a shot.
Yeah, you have to give yourself some insulin. Your pancreas isn't making it, so you have to give yourself the insulin. Now, people with diabetes can do it in different ways. Some people give themselves an injection of insulin. Some people have an insulin pump, a little piece of equipment they wear, and it has a little tube that goes to a patch on their skin, and that insulin goes in through their skin, and they can get insulin that way. Some people have like a little pod they wear maybe on their arm that contains insulin. So there's a lot of different ways you can get the insulin into your body, but it all works the same way. Is you have to monitor your own blood sugar and give yourself the proper amount of insulin, because your pancreas isn't doing it on its own. Isaiah?
Is there any like cure to diabetes?
No.
Type 1 or 2?
So there's two types of diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is the one that, if you know a student in school or a friend or something, they probably have type 1 diabetes. It was something either maybe they were born with, usually they developed sometime during their childhood, and really doctors often don't know why this happens to people. For some people, they're going on, they're fine, they were healthy, and then something happens and their pancreas stops working, and they then have diabetes. So that's type 1 diabetes. So far, there's no way to fix their pancreas. There's no way to really prevent that from happening in the first place. So not really, but it's an area that's of active research. There's another type of diabetes, type 2 diabetes. This is what sometimes affects older people. And often it can be caused by obesity, by lack of exercise, by poor diet. A person can develop diabetes later on in their life. Okay? And it's not really that their pancreas isn't working anymore, it's that their cells sort of become resistant to it. And the insulin their pancreas produces doesn't really have an effect. And so they have sort of the same effects. Their blood sugar is not being monitored, is not being regulated properly, so they may have to give themselves extra insulin or watch their diet or things like that. So they're two sort of, they end up in the same thing, which is the wrong amount of glucose in the blood that is sort of caused by different things. Are any questions about the pancreas or the pituitary?
No, can we watch the video?
Yep.
Can I go back to sleep?
No.